Most GTA fans know Liberty City, they know Los Santos, they know Vice City, but there's one city in the GTA universe that almost nobody talks about, and the more you dig into it, the darker and more disturbing it gets. Today we're going deep on Carcer City, its role in Manhunt, how it's connected to the Grand Theft Auto franchise, and whether it actually exists in real life. And I want to warn you, this one gets heavy. Before we get into anything else, we need to talk about what Carcer City actually is, because Rockstar didn't just add a random city name into their games. They built something specific, and once you understand what this place really is, everything else hits completely different. Carcer City is a Rust Belt city somewhere on the east coast of the United States, or possibly the Midwest, depending on which game you're listening to. And that contradiction is intentional, because Rockstar has deliberately kept this city ambiguous. A radio ad in San Andreas calls it the Heartland.
Hear the eagle roar in Carcer City. This is what the Heartland is all about.
A news segment in Grand Theft Auto 3 places it near Liberty City on the East Coast.
So I'm sitting here reading the Liberty Tree, and it says in nearby Carcer City.
These two descriptions don't line up, and Rockstar never resolves that. For a city this dark, maybe the vagueness is the point. Think of it as GTA's version of a forgotten Detroit or Cleveland. Flat terrain, surrounding hills for the wealthy, a heavily polluted river, closed steel mills, and entire neighborhoods completely abandoned.
Stay right there, you prick.
And taken over by violent gangs. The police are corrupt, the government has been bought, and the whole city has quietly been turned into something truly horrifying.
Get ready, boys, he's coming.
What's worth pointing out is just how much thought Rockstar put into making Carcer City feel like a real place that genuinely collapsed. Based on the subway maps visible in Manhunt, the city sits next to a large body of water, fitting for a Rust Belt city, most of which grew up along the Great Lakes. There are references to neighborhoods called North Lakeside and Rocks North Bay. The terrain is mostly flat, but the wealthier neighborhoods sit up in the surrounding hills, which is a very specific kind of urban decay detail. The rich literally elevated themselves above everything rotting below, and the fact that the city has a subway system at all tells you it was once a genuine metropolis. Subway infrastructure is expensive. You don't build it unless you have the population and the economy to justify it. What you're seeing in Manhunt is the wreckage of something that used to matter. So now we need to talk about Manhunt, because Manhunt is the game that Carcer City was built for, and it is by a significant distance the darkest thing Rockstar has ever made.
These streets are being patrolled by gangs. They're scum, just like you. And they're here to hunt you down and cut you up. I'll try to direct you as best I can, but other than that, you're on your own. It's up to you.
Released in 2003, Manhunt is a stealth survival game developed by Rockstar North, the same studio behind the Grand Theft Auto series. But where GTA is dark with a layer of satire underneath it, Manhunt has no safety net. There's no humor to cut the tension, no open world to escape into. It is a game about survival in the most brutal sense. And it is set entirely within the abandoned streets and hollow buildings of Carcer City. When it came out, it was immediately controversial, got banned in several countries, and became one of the most debated games in history. And once you understand what it's actually about, that reaction makes complete sense. The story follows James Earl Cash, a career criminal who spent a decade evading the law before finally being caught in 2000 and sent to Darkwoods Penitentiary on death row. On the day of his scheduled execution, he is given what the entire prison believes is a lethal injection. He dies. Officially, on record, James Earl Cash is executed. And then he wakes up inside an abandoned donut shop in the middle of Carcer City with a stranger's voice coming through an earpiece he doesn't remember putting in.
Hey, tough guy, wake up. You're not dead. Well, not yet, anyway. You're getting a second chance. Another throw of the dice. As far as the world is concerned, you died back in the chamber. Justice was served. James Earl Cash is rotting in hell. Pick up the earrings. Put it on. Go on. That's better. Now only you can hear me. And that's the way you're gonna want it, because I'm your only way out of here.
That voice belongs to Lionel Starkweather, the main villain of Manhunt and the architect of everything that has happened to Carcer City. Starkweather was once a celebrated Vinewood film director, successful and respected in the industry, but his career completely fell apart and Vinewood left him behind. So instead of disappearing quietly, he moved to Carcer City with a very deliberate plan, because a city this broken, this abandoned, with a police force this corrupt, wasn't a problem for someone like Starkweather. It was a canvas. He bribed Police Chief Gary Schaffer and put the entire Carcer City Police Department on his personal payroll, hired a private military company called the Cerberus, made up of former NSA operatives as his security force.
I don't give a fuck what Starkweather wants. Maybe today I kill you, maybe not. Kill the camera.
Recruited the city's most violent gangs as hunters and cast members. Covered entire abandoned neighborhoods in CCTV cameras and converted them into open-air film sets, and built an underground network to distribute what he was producing. Snuff films, real ones, filmed on CCTV, sold to a paying underground audience who knew exactly what they were watching. And the single detail that makes Starkweather genuinely one of the most disturbing characters Rockstar has ever written, he recorded all of his footage over old children's VHS tapes from an in-universe kids show called Frankie and the Freaks. Underneath every murder he captured on camera, there are children's cartoons playing on the tape beneath it. Rockstar made that choice deliberately, and it almost never gets brought up in conversations about this game, which honestly says a lot about just how much darker everything else in Manhunt is by comparison. Starkweather had staged Cash's execution by bribing the prison officials, sedated him, and released him into Carcer City because he'd identified something in him, a man with the survival instincts and the capacity for violence to make genuinely compelling footage. The deal is simple: kill the hunters sent after you, do it on camera, do it in a way that satisfies the director, and maybe at the end of all of this, you walk away free.
Way to go. You're getting the hang of this.
Cash is dropped first into the territory of the Hoods, corrupt former police officers who patrol the abandoned streets of Carcer City. Men who were supposed to protect this city, who instead became paid hunters in someone else's snuff production. Starkweather watches everything through the CCTV network and comments through the earpiece the entire time, satisfied or disappointed depending entirely on how brutal each execution is, and the more savage it gets, the more pleased he sounds.
Beautiful. You're warming up our audience nicely.
Then the Cerberus collect Cash and transport him somewhere new. A junkyard controlled by the Skins, a white supremacist gang whose entire existence is built around hatred and violence, who chase their targets into corners and beat them to death while screaming.
These Skins are boring me, dumbass supremacist bastards, always blaming others for their inadequacies. Butcher them, Cash. Cut them up, beat them down, and choke the fucking life out of them.
The game doesn't pull back from any of this. It puts you directly inside it. Then comes the moment that fully shows you who Starkweather really is. Cash is sent to the abandoned Carcer City Zoo, and that location alone tells you everything about how far this city has fallen, because a functioning zoo requires a functioning city, and Carcer City stopped being that a long time ago. A gang of unhinged war veterans called the War Dogs are holding Cash's family hostage there, and Starkweather is using them as leverage to extract a specific performance out of his star.
Hold up, Cash. You and your family weren't exactly close, am I right? It's just that I thought it would be nice to have a surprise reunion. But these War Dogs didn't see it my way, and they've taken matters into their own hands. They're using them as bait, Cash. Bait. I know. I can hardly believe it myself. Each time they spot you, these War Dogs are going to execute one of your beloved family.
Get detected, and a family member dies on camera.
It's hack and slash time.
Too slow, Cash. They've nailed him.
So Cash moves through the entire location with everything he has, careful and brutal at the same time, doing everything right, keeping his family alive. And after he clears it, after he does absolutely everything Starkweather asked, Starkweather has his family killed anyway. It was never leverage. It was just another scene designed to produce a specific emotional reaction in his leading man. Cash finds out at the Carcer City Mall, another hollowed out shell of what this city used to be, its corridors dark and now occupied by the Innocents, a satanic gang of occultist criminals. Starkweather has arranged what he calls a special screening.
I thought you could do with a little R&R, so I've arranged a special screening. Just for you. It's work in progress, but I think you'll appreciate it.
Cash finds a television playing footage of his remaining family members being murdered one by one with a machete.
You must understand, Cash. I could never let them go. Where were your family when you were facing your final moments in the chamber anyway?
Watches the whole thing, and then picks the television up and throws it into the ground. A man who has killed dozens of people across this city, completely falling apart over the ones he couldn't protect, alone on the floor of a dead shopping mall in a dead city with flickering screens around him. That image is one of the most genuinely raw things Rockstar has ever written for any of their games. From there, Cash is pushed through a homeless encampment in East Los Albos, one of Carcer City's most completely forgotten neighborhoods, where even the people with nothing have nowhere better to be. Then through an abandoned chemical factory, and eventually back to Darkwood's penitentiary itself. The prison is now overrun by the Smileys, a gang of psychotic former asylum patients who seized the institution after Carcer City's mental health system collapsed entirely. The building is dark, full of people who have completely lost their grip on reality. Starkweather guides Cash through it using a figure dressed in a White Rabbit costume, the White Rabbit, pulled directly from the same children's show as the VHS tapes, leading him deeper and deeper into the asylum until the trap finally closes. Cash is surrounded, outnumbered, meant to die on camera as the grand finale of Starkweather's film. Cash survives it anyway, and from that point forward, he is completely done performing. Now let's talk about Pigsy, because Pigsy is genuinely the darkest single character Rockstar has ever created, and most people who haven't played Manhunt have no idea he even exists. Before the events of the game, Pigsy was Starkweather's original leading man. He joined the operation voluntarily, started an actual snuff productions under titles like Pigsy's Greatest Hits and Pigsy's Bloopers, and was Starkweather's most valued talent for years. But living inside that world, killing on camera over and over, existing entirely within the reality Starkweather had constructed inside Carcer City, Pigsy's mind eventually gave out completely. Past the point of following instructions, past the point of functioning as a human being in any recognizable sense. Starkweather's response was to chain him in the attic of his mansion and feed him human remains. keeping him stored away as a living weapon to be released whenever the cameras needed something no sane person could provide. By the time Cash encounters him, Pigsy is completely naked, layered in dried and fresh blood, wearing the rotting severed head of a one-eyed pig as a mask, dragging a chainsaw through the pitch-black upper floors of Starkweather's estate and sniffing the air to locate his prey. Cash fights him in complete darkness using shadow and whatever sharp objects he can find on the floor. The fight ends with Pigsy hanging from a collapsing grate, his chainsaw dropping to the floor below, and Cash picking it up. That is what Starkweather did to a person who came to work for him willingly, used him until there was nothing left, then chained the remains in the attic and kept them fed. Cash reaches Starkweather's office. Starkweather grabs a revolver and tries to defend himself. The bullets run out, and he immediately shifts to negotiation.
Cash, I made you!
And Cash kills him with Pigsy's own chainsaw. The snuff ring gets exposed, Gary Schaffer gets prosecuted, and Cash vanishes completely, nowhere to be found when the police and news crews finally reach the estate.
Lionel Starkweather has been found dead today, along with several of his bodyguards, at his estate at the Wapona Hills residential district. In what investigators are calling a bloody vendetta, an unknown assailant infiltrated the compound, killing Starkweather, but more interestingly, leading police to the site of a snuff film ring being run from the estate's confines. Linked to this ring is Carcer City's own police chief, Gary Schaefer, whose lawyer stated that he intends to plead not guilty.
But the most tragic figure in the entire story is one that almost never gets brought up. The journalist, a young news anchor for Carcer City News who had been investigating Starkweather's operation for months, fully aware that the police she might turn to for protection were the same people Starkweather was paying.
I can't trust anyone, least of all the police, and time's running out. I've got to get the one piece of evidence that will expose Starkweather without a shadow of a doubt.
A bounty had been placed on her head on an underground forum worth a full year's salary, an entire month before Manhunt even begins, and she kept working anyway. She saves Cash, gathers her evidence, exposes Starkweather live on television, and does everything right by every possible measure. She had watched Starkweather's footage to build her case, and the truth of what had been happening in that city destroyed her in a way that surviving it apparently never could destroy Cash. The person who did the most to bring Carcer City's darkness into the light ended up being the one most consumed by it. And if you think it stopped there, Rockstar pushed things even further in Manhunt 2, a game so controversial it was banned in multiple countries. After that, the entire series, and Carcer City itself, was quietly left behind. So the Manhunt series ended there. But here's what's interesting. They were simultaneously threading Carcer City into the GTA series across every single era, and most players never caught a single one of these connections. It starts in GTA 3, the very beginning of the 3D universe, specifically during a Lips 106 news segment playing on the radio while you're driving around.
So I'm sitting here reading the Liberty Tree, and it says, in nearby Carcer City, good day for law and order as Police Chief Gary Schaefer was cleared of corruption charges in a controversial decision by the courts. Let's hope those missing witnesses turn up safe and sound.
Carcer City Police Chief Gary Schaffer was cleared of corruption charges in a controversial decision by the courts. Most players heard that and kept driving without giving it any thought. But Rockstar planted that line 2 full years before Manhunt even released, and that's the same Gary Schaffer who would later sell his entire police department to Starkweather and help run a snuff film operation out of a hollowed out city. The courts clearing him wasn't a throwaway detail. It was Rockstar telling you exactly how untouchable the people running Carcer City really were, years before you even knew what Carcer City was. Then in Vice City, Rockstar takes it a step further and starts physically connecting the two worlds. Storefronts in Little Havana carry the exact same signage that later appears in Manhunt, same businesses, same branding, quietly confirming that these aren't two separate universes running parallel to each other. They're the same one. And Rockstar was building that connection silently in the background, while most players were just trying to complete missions.
You blocking up traffic!
By the time San Andreas arrives, the references have multiplied to the point where you start to realize this isn't accidental at all. There's a company called Carcer Gas that produces these distinctive blue barrels scattered around the map, and the same barrels also appear in Manhunt's Carcer City. Cash's specific ammunition, Morris ammunition and Brian's nails, sits on ammunition shelves in San Andreas.
The anti-tank missile! You don't need to clean the deer when he's already been minced!
There's also a radio tourist advertisement for Carcer City that plays like a joke, cheerfully mentioning the closed steel mills and inviting you to dine in the glow of the flaming river.
Tired of all the sunshine and good weather? Looking for a real American vacation? Visit the shining jewel in the Rust Belt crown, Carcer City. It's a real man's vacation. The pride of a nation is in Carcer City. It's steel, ice, and poverty. Spend a romantic evening in the beauty of the nighttime river glow at the flaming river. Watch real men who make things lose their jobs and fight on our special Closing the Mill guided tour. Come see what we're really made of. This is real America. Drunk, proud, unemployed, and angry. Hear the eagle roar. In Carcer City, this is what the Heartland is all about.
But underneath the humor, it's describing a city that has been completely and utterly hollowed out. And then if you ever look at the arrivals board at the San Andreas airport, there's a flight listed as MH516 incoming from Carcer City, MH standing for Manhunt. And this might be the biggest hint of a connection between the two universes. Some female pedestrians also randomly mention that they studied there, while others say they're moving there after watching CJ commit violence in the street. What's worth noting is that all of these San Andreas references exist in the same game, at the same time, layered on top of each other. Rockstar wasn't just dropping one Easter egg and moving on. They were building a portrait of a city that existed in the same world as everything you were already playing in, and they wanted you to feel its presence even if you never visited it. Then, GTA 4 shifts the tone of the references entirely. You can pull up the LCPD criminal database and find real residents who were born in Carcer City, people with criminal records and backstories who carry that city with them into Liberty City. Pedestrians on the street drop lines like, "You drive like you're from Carcer City," or "Oh shit, this is Liberty, not Carcer," in completely casual conversation, as if Carcer City is so well known in this universe that its reputation bleeds naturally into everyday speech. The in-game statistics even track a Liberty City to Carcer City travel distance that comes in shorter than the distance to Washington, D.C., meaning this isn't some distant mythical place. It's right there, just off screen, close enough to drive to. And then, in GTA 5, Carcer City enters the main story directly. During the Polito score, Trevor sits everyone down and asks them to share their first job. Everyone shares their first scores. Franklin talks about his job with Lamar, and Packy, if chosen, recalls his score back in Liberty City. But when it's Michael's turn, his very first score took place in Carcer City.
Mikey, bro, what was your first bank score?
88, outskirts of Carcer City. Took a small franchise for 10G. Yeah, things were easier back then.
Yeah, 25 years ago. Jesus!
Michael DeSantis says that in 1988, on the outskirts of Carcer City, he robbed a small franchise for about $10,000. That's where it all started for Michael, his first heist. his first real step into the life. Think about the weight of that for a second. Across every Grand Theft Auto game from 3 to 5, Rockstar kept finding new ways to remind you that Carcer City exists, that it's real, that it's part of the same world you're living in. And then they tied it directly to the origin story of one of their most iconic protagonists. The city where a film director bought the police force and turned the streets into a kill set is the same city where Michael DeSanta pulled off his very first score.
We do not know your infinite mysteries.
So Carcer City has been threaded through the GTA series from GTA 3 all the way through to GTA Online, but here's the question that nobody can fully answer. Is it actually part of the same universe, or is it something just outside of it, connected enough to feel real but deliberately kept at a distance? Because the 3D universe, GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, pretty clearly shares its continuity with Manhunt. Same businesses, same radio stations, same corrupt police chief mentioned on the same radio frequency, caches ammunition on ammunition shelves, a flight from Carcer City landing at the San Andreas airport. Those aren't coincidences, those are deliberate connections Rockstar built across multiple games over multiple years. But then the HD universe arrives, Grand Theft Auto 4, 5 and GTA Online, and suddenly the connections become much darker. Carcer City is still referenced. Michael's first job was there.
Outskirts of Carcer City. Took a small franchise for 10G.
People in Liberty City bring it up in conversation. But Manhunt itself, the events, the characters, Starkweather, Cash, none of it gets directly acknowledged anywhere in the HD universe. The city exists as a place, but maybe not as a history. So is the Carcer City that Michael robbed his first franchise back in 1988 the same city where Cash was being hunted through the streets 15 years later? The same city where Starkweather filmed murders in abandoned neighborhoods while the police he owned made sure nobody interfered? Or is it a different version of the same place, carrying the same darkness and the same decay, but with a completely different story underneath it? Rockstar has never answered that. And honestly, that might be exactly the point, because the uncertainty is what keeps Carcer City permanently unsettling within this universe. You can never fully place it, and you can never fully rule it out. Every time it gets mentioned in a new game, you find yourself wondering whether the events of Manhunt happened in this version of the world too, whether somewhere off-screen or behind everything you're playing. And that is what makes Carcer City the darkest corner of the GTA universe. Not what Rockstar showed you, but what they didn't.